Our lead this hour from Western New York, from upstate New York. You're going to upset members of the Mafia. You do not want to upset members of the Mafia. This is akin to knocking down a hornet's nest. Josh Allen, in my cartoon bubble over my head, Josh Allen was eating chicken wings at the Anchor Bar, the birthplace of the modern chicken wing. Before the Anchor Bar, chickens didn't have wings. And Allen taking on some strays here. He took on some shrapnel. If you did not see this or hear about it, it is a big week for the list. A big week for the list. And Bills quarterback Josh Allen has been voted number one most overrated player in the National Football League. This done by an anonymous survey of his peers. His contemporaries believe he is overrated. Overrated. Now, fellow players voted Allen at the very top of the heap. He's A1 for overrated. Now, as you might imagine, this ruffled some feathers on the homestead, and there has been immediate pushback by the loyal minions of the Buffalo football team. But let us discuss the question. Bills quarterback Josh Allen voted the most overrated player in the NFL, small sample size. How does that sound to you? I've got Masquerade Ball, Tinkerbell, and Chaos. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to be at loggerheads, because I know I'm going to be at loggerheads with the Bills fans. So, listen, my first thought is it's not outrageous. It's not outrageous to have Josh Allen as overrated, because overrated doesn't mean you suck. People confuse overrated with the fact that you blow, and overrated doesn't mean that. It just means you're not as good as people think you are. I also chuckled, and I chuckled because I saw some of the comments. I popped on the social medias, and I saw some of these Bills fans having an aneurysm. How could you do this? This is our Savior. This is our Messiah. How could you rip Josh Allen? These are the glory days of the Buffalo Bills. It's one of those no justice, no peace type rants. How dare you? How dare you besmirch and spat loogies at Josh Allen? These are fighting words. The Buffalo backers marching in the streets, metaphorically, of course, holding torches and pitchforks and all that. But in all seriousness, Josh Allen, he fits the bill, right? He fits the bill. It's the masquerade ball. He talks the talk, has great stats, but is the ninja of the big mistake. Josh Allen is dressed up at the masquerade ball like King Cobra, but he doesn't have any venom in key moments. Right? He is a stumble bum. He's a mistake-prone quarterback. There has not been a player this wild, this much of a gunslinger since Brett Favre back in the day. The last 4 years, Josh Allen leads the NFL in touchdowns. Whee! He also leads the NFL in turnovers. The turnover machine, right? Interception machine and all that. And you go all the way back to the 90s, early 2000s to find a stretch of that level of futility. And Bills Mafia always pivots. They do whataboutism. Well, what about this? The kicker missed the kick. What about the wide receiver? What about the defense? What about this? What about that? What about everything? Diversionary tactics used to deflect away. And you look at the overall playoff numbers, and the playoff numbers for Josh Allen are pretty good. Yet, it seems like whoever he went against, usually a little better. Normally a little better. So explain that to me. How's that happen? Just bad luck? Needs to buy some fuzzy dice? Is that what's going on? Mercury's always in retrograde, as Andrea would say there in Berkeley. Is that what this is about? Just kind of weird how that happens. Yeah, it's a coinky-dink. All right, furthermore, next stop we go to the Commonwealth, where taxation is all the rage. Former Patriot coach Bill Belichick, now a media mogul. He's got a podcast here. He's got a TV show over there. Bill Belichick criticizing the income surtax in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Now, that tax, nothing better than hearing taxation conversation on your sports radio. And you really turn to me for tax information. But here's what I know. I read this, and I think I'm somewhat up on it, but if I'm wrong, you can correct me. So Bill Belichick took a shot at the surtax, which requires taxpayers who make over $1 million to pay an extra 4% on taxable income. The minimum salary in the NFL is like $1 million. So everyone who plays in the NFL is a millionaire, from what I understand. According to Belichick, he went on this rant. We had to get out a little violin there, a little tiny violin. He said the Patriot organization is unable to compete fiscally with the other teams in states that do not have an income surtax to contend with when they want to add players. So when asked about the millionaires tax, as it is called, people in Massachusetts like to say that, Bill Belichick responded by saying that is Taxachusetts, as he called it. Taxachusetts. That's a good line. So Bill Belichick says the Patriots have a harder time signing players because of the high taxes in Massachusetts. Where are you at on this one? Now, I'm not a big tax guy. I believe in fewer taxes. I don't know many people that want more taxes. The people I know in my life that want more taxes, I call them losers. Because why do we want the politicians to screw up our money? But anyway, that's a different conversation. I wish it was true. Unfortunately, I see no correlation between taxation and player migration. I don't see it. Because under this line of thing, it's the same thing. I'll use the analogy. It's like the Denver Broncos and the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Rockies should win every year because of the mile-high air. They have a competitive advantage at the altitude they play in, and teams cannot adjust to it. And yet, in my lifetime, the Broncos have won a few Super Bowls. The Rockies haven't won anything. I did see the Denver Nuggets win one championship, but they don't win all that. But they have an advantage. But then you talk about the money part of it. I say, well, Florida, Nevada, and Tennessee, from what I understand, if you're a professional athlete, those are the places you want to play in from a taxation standpoint. Well, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. The Dolphins, Jags, Bucks, Raiders, and the Tennessee Titans, last I checked, not running away with Lombardi Awards. Now, the Bucks did win with Tom Brady a few years ago. That is true. The Dolphins haven't won since the Stone Age. Jacksonville hasn't ever won anything. The Raiders haven't been relevant since they were back in Oakland the first time, for the most part. And the Tennessee Titans, they were in a Super Bowl, but they came up a half a yard short. So the other thing, and this was explained to me years ago by an agent friend of mine who, and this was long ago, but he laid it out. He said, listen, when you get to a certain level of income and you're a certain level of professional athlete, you don't really worry about the tax because rich people don't pay the tax anyway. They find loopholes in the tax code. They have great accountants. It's the suckers who keep voting for the taxes that pay the taxes, right? They're the ones that pay for it. But the rich people, oh, yeah, tax us. Because we'll move money here, there, and everywhere. We'll have a house in Florida. We'll have an account over here, and we'll go through with a fine-tooth comb, as the line goes, the tax code, and we'll find our way around. But yet, Belichick saying Taxachusetts and talking about the millionaire's tax in Massachusetts, it's one of these things I file under the Tinkerbell effect. If enough people believe hard enough that fairies exist, they do. If enough people believe that there's some kind of competitive disadvantage to playing for the Patriots or any of the teams in California, the 49ers don't appear to have any problem getting players to play for them with the ridiculous, outrageous taxes in California. We can go on and on. All right. And it doesn't mean that we support, again, the insane taxation because the stumbling, bumbling politicians futz away our money. I'd rather futz away my own money, but that's just me. Anyway, all right, now last thing here. We go to Indy. roster trimming time. Always fun conversation. Now, this is extra painful for the Horseshoes. It has been pointed out to me by someone who may or may not live in the Hoosier State that the Colts, a mid-level contender this year, they're not expected to be very good. They're not expected to be terrible. They're somewhere in the middle. The Colts released not one, not two, but 3 2024 draft picks, and they made these moves just a few months after the draft. The draft was back in late April, and they didn't do much of anything for a big chunk of that time. So what does that tell you? So this is a refresher course for you nerds that get all horny for the draft every year. It is an imperfect science. Indy got rid of their 5th, 6th, and 7th round selections. And all you guys that get all excited, get your pants down while you're watching the draft, the 5th round, that's the one that stings a little bit, but still, not that much. This is a reminder. The NFL draft is a fool's paradise, right? You're drafting players on a wish and a prayer. It's a promissory note. And I loved it. I like the Rams. I love when the Rams did F them picks. Now the Rams, all of a sudden, they love their draft picks, and they've had a little bit of success, but not every one of them. And this also goes back to the chaos theory of the universe, of the NFL, that nobody knows anything. They spend all this time scouting every player in college football. They start scouting some of these guys when they're in high school. And yet, they're essentially throwing fettuccine Alfredo against the wall and seeing what sticks. That's essentially what's going on. It's kind of ridiculous.